have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am
I am
tired,
tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Hey, friends and neighbors, here we go. Tuesday, September 9. Can you believe it? The Bill Press Show, Washington, D.C. is our home base. Capitol Hill is where our home studio is. Your car, your home, your office, your iPhone, your iPad is where we end up, and it's good to be with you on this Tuesday. Thanks for joining us for our roundup of the news of the day. Wherever it's happening, we're going to tell you all about it. Whether it's happening here in Washington, around the country, around the globe, here on Free Speech TV and on our worldwide video stream, TawkrTV. We're there with you for the next 3 hours. And we look forward to getting your calls at 866-55-PRESS. President Obama meeting with the congressional leaders of both parties this afternoon at the White House to brief them on his plans for dealing with the threat of ISIS. All of that in preparation for his big speech to the nation tomorrow. Still no time or place set for that speech, but definitely will be tomorrow. Meanwhile, in Iraq, there is a new cabinet sworn in, the beginning of the new unity government, which is, President Obama says, the first step in dealing with ISIS. The big question is whether the president is going to seek congressional authorization for airstrikes inside of Syria. All the president will say for the time being is that he believes he has the authority to make those strikes, but he does want congressional buy-in, whatever that means. Biggest news of the day, of course, is that Ray Rice, running back for the Ravens, is no longer with the Ravens. Ravens dropped him yesterday like a rock after that video surfaced of him punching his then-girlfriend in that elevator at the Revel Casino in Atlantic City, and the NFL has suspended him for indefinitely. Maybe he'll never come back to the game. The big question is, why did it take the NFL and the Ravens this long to look at that video, or did they see it ahead of time? 866-55-PRESS is a toll-free number. Don't forget to call us on this Tuesday edition of The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
You know, sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple, and they add up and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you know, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that would be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody can look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. You know, and like our community said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Ray Rice out of a job, and it's about time. Hey, hello, everybody. Tuesday, September 9. Hello. Good to see you, and welcome. Welcome to the Bill Press Show on a Tuesday, September 9. We are coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, with Congress in town, the president in town, the vice president in town. Ought to be able to get something done. Don't count on it. To the extent anything's going on here in Washington, we'll let you know about it. And equally important, we'll let you know what's going on around the country, around the globe, and take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Your comments welcome also on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. On your local progressive talk radio station, we are here with you on Free Speech TV. We're here with you. And on our worldwide video stream, youtube.com/Tawker, TawkrTV. And don't forget, you've got a couple of apps, too, where you can follow us, the TuneIn app or the iHeartRadio app, where you'll be linked to one of our great affiliates. So much to cover this morning. Peter Rugburn and Elisa Murphy here to help do the job. Hello, guys.
Happy Tuesday.
Hey.
Team, including Alicia Cruz on the phones, ready to take your calls, 866-55-PRESS, and on the lights and cameras, Cyprian Bolding, our videographer. And we are excited because the Nats are back in town, and we got the Phillies out of town, but now the Braves in town, and the Braves have been the bête noire of the Nats this year.
They have.
Yeah, Carroll gets very nervous when they play the Braves.
Every Nationals fan gets a little nervous.
Yeah, when they play. But last night, first of the series with the Braves, it did all right. It started off with Ian Desmond. He's a go-to guy.
Yeah.
Swinging a line drive by Ian Desmond. A base hit into right field. On a first pitch fastball. Rendon scores from third. LaRoche stops at second. And the Nationals score first here in the bottom of the first inning. They take the lead early on the Braves. It's Washington 1, Atlanta 0.
And it went on to the Nets went on to win it 2-1. It was not a heart attack game. They didn't have to go to extra innings, and they didn't pull it off in the bottom of the ninth.
That's right. And isn't it funny how we have a big Atlanta Braves fan coming in studio later on in Travis Waldron?
Oh, that'll be fun.
Just a coincidence, but it'll be nice.
Let's save that.
We might have to save that.
Yeah, hang on to that audio. We might have to hear that again.
Good for the Nationals, though. I mean, they slipped a little bit against the Phillies.
But I think they're 8 games, aren't they now up or something? I think I saw that this morning.
The latest, but
and so they're in the playoffs, right?
Not officially, but I mean, there's no reason why they wouldn't be at this point.
Okay.
Knocking on wood. I mean, they haven't clinched anything yet, so it would take a total meltdown, but it's just...
All right, so as Peter mentioned, Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports will be along. It's a Tuesday, so we'll also start off with Arthur Delaney and Igor Volsky as well. George Condon from the National Journal, good friend of mine from San Diego, will be here as well. So we got a great lineup for you, and lots to talk about, starting with Ray Rice. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Six Flags Magic Mountain, just outside Los Angeles yesterday. Some roller coaster riders were in for a big surprise. Their giant roller coaster there, Colossus, caught on fire yesterday, and part of it actually collapsed. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was on it when it happened. They saw the smoke and stopped the rides before it turned into something serious. But it is currently shut down, as you can imagine.
Must be some wiring defect then.
They haven't released what it is that caused it to happen, but the park is still open. You just can't ride Colossus right now.
Wow, that'd be pretty scary.
Yeah, right? As if roller coasters weren't scary enough.
Exactly.
So the idea of a Ghostbusters reboot has been kicking around for a long time. It's going to be hard to do, obviously, because we've lost some of the people that were in it.
Yeah.
But But Bill Murray came out and he says he has an idea. He was one of the original Ghostbusters. He says, sure, we should reboot it, and we should cast all women as the leading characters in the Ghostbusters. In fact, he says he'd like to see Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Linda Cardellini, and Emma Stone all take on the roles of the Ghostbusters. No word if that's going to happen. But that's
okay, fine. All right, good luck. But you know what?
I can tell when you don't give it.
No, because you have such a great movie. It's such it's an iconic movie.
I agree.
Leave it alone. I mean, you cannot repeat the success of that. No matter what they do, no matter who they put in it, it's not going to be the same. It won't be as good. Just go on, come up with a new idea.
Yeah, they remake everything.
I could not agree more. I could not agree more. Stop taking everything that I loved and turning it into something horrible.
We don't need a freaking sequel for everything,
or a reboot of everything.
Or a reboot, yeah.
And we may have actually found out who Jack the Ripper is. This man describes himself as an armchair detective. Russell Edwards was looking into the case, and he found a shawl that belonged to one of the victims that contained both the blood of the victim, Catherine Eddowes, and her killer, thought to be Jack the Ripper. And after testing the DNA on that shawl, he has concluded that Aaron Kosminski, a 23-year-old Polish hairdresser, was behind the Jack the Ripper killings that gripped London's East End slums in 1888.
About time they solved that.
It's about time, right?
Yeah.
Right. Damn.
And that's why I never trust my hairdresser.
That's right. They never trust the hairdresser. That's right. It's presumed that Mr. Kosminski is no longer with us. So I don't think he's going to be charged with anything.
There is a phrase, justice delayed is justice denied. I think it applies in this case.
I think that's about right.
Yes, indeed. We told you yesterday morning, just about this time yesterday morning on the program, the video was released. The video broke, and we told you about it. A video of inside the elevator at the Revel Casino in Atlantic City, where Ray Rice knocked his then girlfriend unconscious. We had seen the video before of the elevator doors opening and his dragging her out of the elevator. She was unconscious, dragging her partly by the hair to get her out of the elevator. Well, yesterday we knew and remember when that was released, that was 3 weeks ago or so, we talked about the fact, where's the video inside the elevator? Come on, there's got to be video inside the elevator. It's a casino, after all. There are cameras everywhere. Well, that finally came out yesterday, released, we got to tell you, by the great website TMZ, man. They're leading the pack today in terms of investigative journalism.
Say what you will about the paparazzi aspect of what TMZ does.
Yeah, no.
And the fact that they pay for videos. Money well spent in this case.
Harvey Levin was on TV same time I was in L.A. Got to know him. He was we never worked at the same channel, but he was part of our journalistic fraternity out there, and he was a great reporter then, and he's just gone on to do great things at TMZ. Anyhow, They released this video yesterday, and all hell broke loose. Once they saw it, the Ravens, they dropped Ray Rice like a hot potato. Of course, he didn't play the first game because he'd been suspended that was part of it. After that other video came out, getting ahead of myself here, don't forget, Roger Goodell said, "Oh man, we can't accept this. We're going to suspend him for the first 2 games of the season." Of course, if he had smoked pot, he would have been suspended for the entire season, if not his entire life. And everybody said, "Oh my God, that's just a slap on the wrist." Well, so when this came out yesterday, the Ravens took a look at it and they dropped him from the squad. Period.
Terminated his contract.
Period. Terminated his contract. He is no longer a Raven and will never be. And then the NFL followed up by suspending him indefinitely, which, I don't like because it leaves that possibility that he could come back. And we remember at the time when the first video came out, Ray Rice apologetically said, "I'm going to be a better man now."
That's my fault. I take full responsibility for that. And, one thing that I do know is that I am working every day to be a better father, a better husband, and just a better role model.
Yeah. Yeah, better role model, right? Yeah. Well, so it finally caught up with him yesterday. But so look, I'm glad he is out. I'm glad the Ravens did what they did. I'm glad the NFL did what they did. But there's still too many questions left unanswered here. Yeah. And let's start with the NFL. I mean, I got to tell you, in my judgment, the NFL and the Ravens don't really get any credit here at all.
That's good. That's a very good point.
TMZ gets a credit, or whoever gave the video to TMZ. Somebody at the casino must have given it to TMZ. They get the credit. If this video had not come out, Ray Rice would still be playing.
He'd be playing. He'd be playing next weekend.
Absolutely.
He'd be on the field.
Absolutely. So none of the others look good here, and particularly not the NFL. I mean, the question is, did the NFL see this video ahead of time? And this morning, TMZ reports that they might not have, because they didn't even ask to see the video. They knew it existed. Yeah. They knew TMZ had it. They didn't even ask to see it. Here's Harvey Levin from TMZ.
I have gotten conflicting stories on this, and we have some people saying they saw this, but I now believe they actually turned a blind eye to it. And it's a shameful story that the NFL knew that this surveillance video existed. They knew that this casino had surveillance video. I know they knew that. And we will explain later why we know they knew that, but they did. And they didn't do anything to look at this video.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, they just looked the other way, basically.
Yeah. So the way that this whole timeline breaks down on the video, when this story first sort of started brewing, right, a couple months ago, Peter King from Sports Illustrated reported that the NFL had seen video from inside the elevator. Whether or not that actually happened, it appears the NFL is saying they never saw it, but they knew that there was video from inside the elevator. The police had the video from inside the elevator. Ray Rice's attorney had the video from inside the elevator. The NFL conducted an investigation on this, and they never asked...
Apparently, never asked to see the video
from inside the elevator.
Where he actually slammed her. Now, we've all seen it. By the way, you mentioned the police. That's the other big question. Yeah. The police let this guy off with some kind of a plea bargain, and where he does a year of public, whatever.
He's in a plan.
Some kind of a program, right. They said first-time offender. Yeah, I don't believe it was a first-time offender. But here's this professor from Rutgers, Brian Neary, who says this is probably why the police, who saw the video, saw the video of the actual striking her, why the police let him off.
In New Jersey, for aggravated assault, you'd have to have what's called serious bodily injury, or an attempt to do that. I guess upon review of the medical records, that they felt that it would not reach itself to that level.
No serious bodily injury? Watch the video again. I mean, he slams her with his left fist. She hits the wall. She hits that railing. She is knocked out. She's not moving at all on the floor of that elevator for a long time.
Doesn't move for a while.
A long time. Doors open. She's not moving. He's dragging her. She is unconscious. No serious bodily injury. I mean, so the NFL, I think their role here is shameful. So is the role of the police shameful. And, and I got to say this too, man. She wrote a letter in support of Ray Rice, and then she married this bum. And it's certainly not her fault. I don't mean to suggest that at all. I'm just saying, I just can't understand.
That to me,
I cannot understand.
Yeah, we're on the same page. When I was part of the problem with this investigation, right, with the NFL,
and her family supports this bum.
The reason they didn't go farther into looking into this is that Ray Rice and his then girlfriend, now wife, went to the NFL when they were being asked about it, and she said it was, quote, mutual combat, that they were fighting with each other. She attacked him, and things got out of hand, and that's and that she was knocked unconscious. But she said it was her fault. She said that she was an active participant, and if you watch that video, you can see that was not the case. So she was covering up for.
They were not throwing punches at each other. She was not throwing any punch at him, not at all. He just knocked her out. And the other disturbing thing is, if you listened to talk radio yesterday, you heard a lot of people I heard a lot of people calling up to defend Ray Rice. Oh, he's a good guy. This is just the first time everybody makes a mistake. Get off it. Get off it. Let's start taking domestic abuse seriously, finally, in this country.
How do you sit in the position that Roger Goodell sits in as the head of the NFL, who, by the way, he's a former attorney. I mean, he knows how these things work. How do you not say, I want to see the tape from inside that elevator. I can't just take this man's word alone.
Can't, no.
How do you do that and say that you did a thorough job? You can't.
Yeah, no. And I just, a final point here, then your call is welcome here at 866-55-PRESS. We're not going to get away from this the whole morning. Don't want to either. It's a big story. It's full of implications and meaning for every one of us. But if Ray Rice was dropped by the Ravens, I think Roger Goodell ought to be dropped by the NFL. 866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number. Let's talk about it here. Tuesday morning, The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
And, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Well, it took him long enough, but Ray Rice finally dropped by the Ravens and suspended by the... You know, that's the thing. Suspended to me carries the meaning of he'll be back someday.
Yeah.
Like a Michael Vick trick, you know?
I would be stunned if they let him back in, but you're right. They got to use stronger language than just a suspension. Yeah.
How about banning from the game, right? Yeah. If you really want to send a message that domestic abuse is not tolerated,
you're done. Lifetime ban.
Lifetime ban.
Boom.
Right. 866-55-PRESS. What do you think? What took him so long? What about the role of the NFL and the police here? And the Ravens, by the way. David, out in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Hi, David.
Hey, I think the concentration is really a bit skewed here. Really shouldn't be on, investigation on what the film was. They knew 6 months ago he knocked her out. They knew 6 months ago that he took a long time to even seek out medical attention for her. He treated her subhumanly. I mean, why do you wait for bits of film to come out when you knew what his behavior was and the acts that he had committed?
No, I mean, what more did you need? Even if we hadn't seen the video inside the elevator, excellent point, David. I mean, she was unconscious.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Without a doubt.
And he did treat her subhumanly. And I got to tell you, also, the disrespect for her as a person, you can see. I mean, the way he treats her lying there,
Yeah.
The skirt all the way up. He doesn't do anything.
Practically kicks her legs out of the way at one point.
Yeah, exactly. Treating her subhumanly. They knew. They didn't need to see the video. But again, they didn't even, according to Harvey Levin, the NFL didn't even ask to see the video inside the elevator. And then they suspended him for only 2 games. We're just getting started here. And lots of calls coming up at 866-55-PRESS.
This is The Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing done. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, Tuesday, September 9, The Bill Press Show. Here we are in our nation's capital. Our studio on Capitol Hill, brought to you today by the United Steelworkers and their international president, Leo Gerard. Colorful, articulate, bombastic Leo Gerard. Love him. The United Steelworkers, North America's largest industrial union, representing over 1.2 million active and retired members. Their website, usw.org. Check out their good work. It's a Tuesday. We've been talking about Ray Rice, dropped yesterday by the Ravens, suspended indefinitely by the NFL. Joining us in studio to continue the conversation. He could talk about anything. Arthur Delaney from the Huffington Post, HuffingtonPost.com. Hello, Arthur.
Good morning.
When you heard this news yesterday, you were surprised? Did you see?
I was a little surprised because they, had seen the video.
Well, apparently they hadn't.
Contrary to their protestations, which were ridiculous, that they hadn't seen this video, because this video has been described. I actually, it's very violent. I had thought the first video was more disconcerting because Ray Rice is treating his fiance's lifeless body with such indifference. He kind of kicks it, drags it, but mostly it just stands there and is not trying to help.
Right.
And that was really weird, but I don't blame people for being extra upset by the punching video, which is extremely graphic, extremely violent.
Right. And the fact that we played the clip earlier where Harvey Levin from TMZ that released it, if this video had not, think about this, if this second video had not been released, Ray Rice would be playing football next weekend.
Yeah. Because of benefit of the doubt. Don't know what happened in there.
Because they don't take domestic abuse seriously.
Yeah.
No matter what they say, right? The 2-game suspension, which was absurd. And again, the police had seen this video. Why hadn't the Ravens seen it?
It's a good question. I mean, they
or demanded to see it.
That's what it comes down to, right? Like, if you were conducting the investigation, you would have given they would have given you the video. TMZ was saying that they talked to the casino hotel, and they said if the NFL had asked us for the video, we would have given it to them. The police asked for it, we gave it to them. Ray Rice's attorney asked for it, we gave it to him. NFL never asked. We would have, but they didn't. So it's just kind of like it's less of like a cover up, I think, than it is just total incompetence and turning a blind eye and refusing to actually follow through and doing the right thing.
You know, I hate to say this, but boy, this has echoes to me of Penn State.
Yeah.
And Jerry Sandusky. I mean,
Oof.
you know, no, I didn't know. We didn't call the police. You know, we didn't do this. We didn't do this. I mean, the people who should have been on top of this did not do their job. And I got to include the Ravens as that as well. Here's John Harbaugh, the coach, yesterday, where he said, again, insists, this is the first time we saw this.
It's something we saw for the first time today, you know, all of us. And it changed things, of course. You know, it made things a little bit different.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a very good excuse.
I don't either.
You saw the video where she's unconscious.
Yeah, right.
And I guess the thinking is, well, maybe they were brawling and she slipped or something innocent happened and she happened to be knocked out, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
You could see that he was totally indifferent or, you know, largely indifferent to what was happening.
Right. And so even if, right, they had that's what they thought, then they should have followed up and demanded to see that second
We
video.
want to see the video. We're going to do a thorough investigation.
Nobody did.
And nobody said that.
All right, let's get our so many calls here. People want to talk about Carl in Natchitoches, Louisiana. I hope I got close.
Natchitoches. Am I right?
Yes, Natchitoches, Louisiana.
Really?
You know, I'm calling-
Wait a minute. Natchitoches.
Hey, nothing sounds like how it's spelled in Louisiana. Come on.
Bill says, is that near New Orleans?
Yes, it is.
All right.
I know where Natchitoches is.
Okay,
They got
Carl.
the meat pies down there.
Oh, man. Go for it, Carl.
Yes, my comment is about Ray Rice. I think that the NFL pat these guys on the back when they do wrong. There's so much violence in the NFL. It's all about money. You know, women who are gold diggers get these guys, and when they don't do right, they want to do the abuse thing upon them and everything else. And when is this going to stop? They're supposed to be models, leaders, and everything else, and here they break the law and nothing be done about it.
No, I agree, Carl. When's it going to stop? That's a good question.
I would not call Janae a gold digger. I wouldn't say anything nasty about her in this situation.
I don't want to say anything nasty about her either, but I do have serious questions about anybody with any sense could write a letter in support of this guy and then marry him after what he
you
did
get
to her.
into the psychology of the way abusive relationships work, and I don't think anyone should question anything she's done. You should feel terrible for her.
I do, but I don't understand it.
It's not easy to understand, but this is the way these things can go. It's not unusual.
On the money front, I think he brings up a good point. The NFL is going to lose a lot of money. The Ravens are going to lose a lot of money with the whole Ray Rice thing. And so they were probably saying, how do we try and make everybody happy while not losing a lot of money?
Well, how are they going to lose any money?
Well, the contract that they have with Ray Rice, they're going to eat a lot of money on that.
He gets to keep all his money from
every last dollar?
Does he? I assume that those contracts are partly fiction.
I think that there's going to be there's probably going to be some back and forth on what he gets to keep, but I'm sure the Ravens are going to.
I'm not an attorney, but I think if you lose, first of all, if they were to fire him without cause, he'd get the money, or he'd have a good cause to get the money. If they've got cause to fire him now.
They do have cause. But there's also
think
some guaranteed money in there. I'm sure they're going to lose some money on the Ray
What's
Rice
so
deal.
sad is she went out on a limb to stand up for him after he had hit her. At least partly, one assumes, to prevent this situation from eventually happening, because this is both their livelihood. And now it's happened. And she's left with this person who beat her savagely, and they did not prevent the NFL from firing him. It's so tragic.
I'll tell you one thing. She ought to drop him as fast as the Ravens did. Joe is out in Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, Joe.
Hey, how's it going?
All right.
If let's consider all sports stars to be entertainers. So, if this guy were a rock star or a movie star, would there be this moral outrage? Not to make light of knocking a woman unconscious, but in 2014, does anyone consider, especially NFL and NBA players, to be role models? They are like the model of misbehavior
most of the time.
You know, it's a good question, but I mean, I do think, and sadly, perhaps, we do consider sports, always have consider sports heroes to be role models.
Sure, I don't have a problem with that either.
Yeah. We want them to be, and so many times they prove they're not.
They're in the news a lot because they are celebrities to begin with, and I'm skeptical that it's actually the case. Most of them are committing crimes and domestic abusers. I doubt that that's true.
No, I think you're right.
But they are. It's just because they are already celebrities. Everything they do wrong is immediately caught. Though there are the stories like Aaron Hernandez, which are so ridiculously bad, it does make you wonder. But I don't think most of them do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and Joe, I started asking the question: if some Hollywood star had done something like this, would we be as outraged? I think so. If we had the video, yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
The idea is, again, this is domestic abuse, which has just been sort of accepted as kind of that's the way some relationships work out on college campuses or in marriages or whatever. No. And as a nation, I think we're finally coming to grips with that. Jennifer is up in Ithaca, New York on the great WNYY. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, good morning. Bill, I tend to agree with you. I, as a woman, don't understand how women continue to stay in abusive relationships. I know there's a deep-rooted psychology that's involved with it, and I don't necessarily call it victim blaming, but there are also a lot of support for abused women, and there's a lot of women that still just stay in these relationships, and it's pretty bizarre to me as a woman. I'm sure this isn't the first time that she was abused, and I, as a woman, don't get it. I know a lot of women feel the same way that I do.
I think that you could say, look,
thanks, Jennifer.
Blaming the victim is wrong, right? And I don't think anybody here is blaming the victim. However, it is part of the reason the NFL did not look as deeply into this as they did is because she came forward and said with Ray Rice, this was a mutual combat. I attacked him, so they took her at her word, right? And so that's troubling to me. Like it concerns me. It bothers me that type of relationship is out there, and that because of that, the NFL turned a blind eye to damning evidence in the case. That bothers me. Mm-hmm. It's not her fault. It's not something that she did wrong and we should blame her for, but it bothers me.
No, I'm not blaming her, but my principal blame where we started is on the NFL and on the police. And the police in New Jersey, they saw the video, and they didn't think serious bodily injury had been done.
Well, doesn't the victim's wishes play a role in what the police decide to do in that situation? If she's saying, I don't want to press charges, there's only so much they can go ahead and do.
It makes it certainly more difficult. Yeah, absolutely.
But even though her decision to stand by him is not easy to understand, it's not intuitive in general. I think just make a cerebral decision to excuse the victim and never blame them.
But I keep coming back. My focus is on the NFL. I mean, the NFL.
Well, that's what this story is about.
Exactly. The NFL did not do their job here in this case, and I think Roger Goodell ought to lose his job because that was his responsibility. And
the idea of an owner or a Goodell losing their job over this, I mean, that will never ever happen.
Keep hope alive.
That's like
keep hope alive.
I wish we didn't bail out the banks. Yeah, right. That's not how this world works.
Let me tell you. I'm going to predict before the end of the week, Roger Goodell's going to resign.
Oh!
866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number. You bet. This story is not over. Goodell, you better look for another job. Your ass is out of here. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate their children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune into Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
All right, 10 minutes now before the top of the hour with Arthur Delaney from Huffington Post. Arthur, back on a couple questions about things that are more on your usual beat. Talk about jobs. Job numbers out Friday for the month of August. A little weaker than we thought.
Yeah, we wanted to
but
see
still over 100 grand.
Over 100 grand. Expected over 200 grand, would like over 400 grand to really see the slack in the labor market disappear, to see things tighten, to see people's wages go up. So this was disappointing, and the unemployment rate went down 0.1 of a percentage point, partly because the denominator in that equation also shrank a little bit, the number of people participating in the labor force. So it fits the basic story we've had throughout this recovery, which is that it's kind of lame.
It's a slow recovery. It's been positive in the right direction, over 100,000, but sort of stuck in that range.
Yeah,
right?
and the big question of what this will mean for policy, everyone's looking at the Federal Reserve, because, of course, Congress will not do anything either way. Will the Federal Reserve start, accelerate its exit from propping up bond markets? And people are, liberal economists say, don't do that because we still have all these long-term unemployed. There's all this slack, all this bad news masked by that falling headline jobless rate. So that's what to look for in terms of policy reacting to the economy.
And last week we saw a nationwide day of protest by fast food workers all around the country. On minimum wage. You and I have talked about this a lot.
Yeah, and hundreds of people got arrested.
Yeah, they're demanding a pay raise from $7.25 to $15 an hour. $15 an hour and the right to join a union. This is the biggest day of their protest so far, as you write. The first time that they've done civil disobedience.
Yeah.
As part of it. Hundreds were arrested. Have any impact?
Absolutely. These protests have all had a surprisingly large amount of impact. You remember... These started a little bit after Occupy Wall Street, which made everyone focus on income inequality and lower wages. And I think also part of the reason this got so much attention is unemployment is sort of exiting the conversation. And now people are looking at what jobs workers have. And they turn out to be a lot of crappy jobs. And these people started protesting, walking off their shifts at fast food restaurants. And I know... big unions are helping organize this, but it actually takes a lot of guts to do that. I've interviewed a lot of these workers, and they do get fired pretty fast. They put their meager livelihood on the line to do this, and it is effective. If they hadn't been doing it, I don't think President Obama would have put this in his State of the Union in February, and that's when he announced a higher minimum wage for federal contractors by executive order. That was $10.10. So effective have these protests been that in less than a year they're up to now demanding $15 because they see it works. That's the reason the demand has gone up, not because they're getting because they're getting attention and because it's also changing the conversation. Right. And having an effect on policy.
And we've seen success in some areas, the city of Seattle, city of Tacoma, Washington, I think California. Have gone to $15 an hour.
Yeah, we $15 an hour, $13 an hour. So this is happening. It's not happening at the national level. It probably won't until there's a Republican president, and then it'll be painless. But states and especially cities and towns are going ahead and doing this. It's not going to help Democrats win the election in November either, but it remains. Impressive and a big deal.
Most importantly, it's the right thing to do. Arthur Delaney, so good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We'll be right back here. Arthur Delaney, HuffingtonPost.com. Don't forget.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies in Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear. We had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves, Would you like it back? What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat the threat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like it back?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
All right, we call them the twins. Every Tuesday are the Delaney and Igor Volsky. Arthur out of here. Igor Volsky coming in next at the top of the next hour. And then we're joined by George Condon from the National Journal as well. We'll see you in just another minute.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, friends and neighbors, here we go. Tuesday, September 9. Can you believe it? The Bill Press Show, Washington, D.C. is our home base. Capitol Hill is where our home studio is. Your car, your home, your office, your iPhone, your iPad is where we end up, and it's good to be with you on this Tuesday. Thanks for joining us for our roundup of the news of the day. Wherever it's happening, we're going to tell you all about it. Whether it's happening here in Washington, around the country, around the globe, here on Free Speech TV and on our worldwide video stream, TawkrTV. We're there with you for the next 3 hours. And we look forward to getting your calls at 866-55-PRESS. President Obama meeting with the congressional leaders of both parties this afternoon at the White House to brief them on his plans for dealing with the threat of ISIS. All of that in preparation for his big speech to the nation tomorrow. Still no time or place set for that speech, but definitely will be tomorrow. Meanwhile, in Iraq, there is a new cabinet sworn in, the beginning of the new unity government, which is, President Obama says, the first step in dealing with ISIS. The big question is whether the president is going to seek congressional authorization for airstrikes inside of Syria. All the president will say for the time being is that he believes he has the authority to make those strikes, but he does want congressional buy-in, whatever that means. Biggest news of the day, of course, is that Ray Rice, running back for the Ravens, is no longer with the Ravens. Ravens dropped him yesterday like a rock after that video surfaced of him punching his then-girlfriend in that elevator at the Revel Casino in Atlantic City, and the NFL has suspended him for indefinitely. Maybe he'll never come back to the game. The big question is, why did it take the NFL and the Ravens this long to look at that video, or did they see it ahead of time? 866-55-PRESS is a toll-free number. Don't forget to call us on this Tuesday edition of The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Ray Rice is out of a job, and he may not be coming back. Hello, everybody. What do you say? Tuesday, September 9. Good to see you today, and welcome to this Tuesday edition of the Bill Press Show. We're here in our nation's capital. Everybody's in town this week. President, Vice President, Congress is back. Oh, my God, it's getting crowded. But we've been here throughout, and we'll let you know what's going on to the extent there's any news at all from Washington, D.C., from around the country, around the globe, and we want to hear from you as to what it all means to you. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Hail, the gang's all here this morning on a Tuesday. Again, we call them the twins. Arthur Delaney was here earlier, and now we welcome from Think Progress managing editor Igor Volsky, known to all of his friends as simply Prince Igor.
Good morning. The yes. Prince, I say, the Prince.
The Prince. Hello, Igor.
Good morning.
Everything good?
Very good. Beautiful weather here. Happy to have everybody back, but the good news is they're not here for long. They're leaving shortly to go back to their districts.
No, and they're already eager to get out of town. I mean, they've been here like a day, and they're just, oh man,
itch to get out.
Let's get back out of here. Yeah, and the question is, other than restaurants being more crowded, will anybody even know that they're back in town? Because they're not going to get anything. I mean, they're not going to accomplish anything, right?
Yeah. Well, we're going to presumably have some kind of CR maybe at the end of the month, potentially.
Which is Washington speak for continuing resolution,
yes.
Which is a short-term budget fix.
Yeah, and the other thing...
That's the most...
That's what we can expect.
There's something else. Excuse me, okay? Because I looked at the calendar for the majority leader yesterday, and they're doing about 10 different dedications of post offices before they leave, okay?
See, important stuff gets done here in hashtag this town.
All right. So before this Congress is over, I'll have a post office named after me. That's how far down the list we're going to fly. All right. You joined the team here, of course, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Happy Tuesday.
With Alicia Cruz there on the phones. Take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, standing by. By the way, it was Meet the Press Sunday, of course. Chuck Todd's maiden voyage, right, with the big interview with the big man. And so how did Chuck do? But Alessandra Stanley in the New York Times this morning gives him a rave review. I thought he did very well, too.
He listens. He listens to the answers, which I think is critical if you're going to interview someone.
And,
see?
Right.
You could never host Meet the Press.
For a lot of reasons.
That was such a big moment in television. Even David Letterman was watching and noticed and has his own little review on Chuck Todd's first appearance.
Here now, Chuck Todd was interviewing the President of the United States. Chuck Todd on it. Take a look.
ISIL poses a broader threat because of its territorial ambitions in Iraq and Syria. Thousands of innocents in Syria, then shifted to Syria. So much of the violence in Syria.
You've not said the word Syria so far.
Whoops. When Chuck said that, I thought, wait, yes, he did? No, it was just one little slip, but Letterman would catch that.
Absolutely.
Oh, man, I have to tell you. Okay.
Spoke too soon.
We have some breaking, but we've been talking a lot about Ray Rice, NFL, and the Ravens. Some breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news has been flying around all morning. TMZ posted a story very, very early this morning that said that the NFL never asked to see the video from inside the elevator. They never asked the hotel for the security footage, and they turned a blind eye to it and just went basically on Ray Rice's word. The NFL just moments ago put out their own statement against what TMZ says. They said, quote, Security for Atlantic City casinos is handled by the New Jersey State Police. Any videos related to an ongoing criminal investigation are held in the custody of the state police. As we said yesterday, we requested from law enforcement any and all information about the incident, including the video from inside the elevator. That video was not made available to us. Now, that part could be true, and the police have said that they don't release those videos because it was part of an ongoing investigation. However, this is me talking here, the NFL could have gone to the casino and asked for the video, which, as TMZ points out, the casino said we would have given them that video.
And Travis Waldron points out on Think Progress, our friend Travis, that all of the reporters that when this story first broke, all the sports reporters reported that they had in fact seen the video.
Yes.
So it was well sourced that they saw this clip. Now they're claiming they didn't, and you're saying they could have if they wanted to.
Yes.
Doesn't really make this a whole lot better for them.
Whether or not they actually saw the video, right? Because that's sort of in question. They say they did, and a lot of people say they did. Whether or not they saw it, it's pretty clear that they knew that there was a video
That they chose not to see.
and then they either saw it and didn't do anything, or chose not to see it to pursue it. Either way, sloppy.
But then also the idea that in order for them to get really serious, they needed to see this second video because the first video is just not enough.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
No, the more we look at the role of the NFL here, from not doing a proper investigation, not asking the right questions, not taking adequate action. The suspending for 2 games and thinking they could walk away from it then is just disgusting, shameful. And I it's Roger Goodell. That's where he's the one responsible.
I pointed this out earlier. Roger Goodell is a former attorney. He knows how these things work. He knows that if he was going to do an actual thorough investigation, he should not have gone off the word of Ray Rice and his then girlfriend, now wife. He should have gone through with the investigation, gone straight to the casino, gotten the tape, made a fully formed judgment instead of just taking his side. And he didn't do it. He colossally screwed this up.
All right. So, and by the way, just fine. Kudos, I got to say, big shout out to TMZ. To me, the hero in this case.
They really pushed the story.
The people who gave the video to TMZ, and TMZ for putting this video out there.
As you pointed out, if it wasn't for TMZ, Ray Rice would be playing football.
He would be playing football next weekend. Absolutely. So Igor Volsky here with us at the top of the hour. George Condon from National Journal joins us at the half. And then the aforementioned Travis Waldron. Boy, this is Think Progress Day here on the Bill Press Show. Travis will be joining us in the next hour.
Oh, I didn't know he was here. Oh, my. Okay.
Oh, no,
yeah, we're doing beer and donuts with him.
Oh, you're doing it with him, of course.
Yeah.
Well, more appropriate for football than this heavy stuff we talk about.
In our briefing yesterday, Igor, the topics were not just about Ray Rice, but also a lot about ISIS and a lot about immigration. The president, as you know, last weekend it was announced, and the president confirmed in his interview with Chuck Todd that he is delaying the executive action he promised by the end of the summer. He's now delaying it until after the November election. But politics has nothing to do with it.
No, not at all.
Does this make any difference?
Well, the president's actually a martyr for immigration reform because he's decided, Bill, to take heat from both sides in order to ensure that his order is sustainable, is what the White House said yesterday in the briefing and what they were saying over the weekend. And it's a tough argument to swallow, really, because when you look at kind of the raw math of the midterms, and you see very quickly that all the places where Democrats are trying desperately to hold on in the Senate, places like New Hampshire and Arkansas, there you have a majority of white voters who vote in the midterms, a very small number of Hispanics, and of course the Democratic senators from those states have been begging the president to hold off on this measure. Now, what I don't understand is since the president announced his intention to do something, earlier this year, and in June he made the promise that it would be by the end of the summer, what is stopping someone like Congressman Tom Cotton in Arkansas, who's challenging Mark Pryor, or Scott Brown, who's challenging Jeanne Shaheen in New Hampshire, from accusing their Democratic senators there of being part of this kind of secret move that Obama's going to foist on the country after the election, that he's holding secret in order to avoid any voter accountability.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like a shady deal to say, I'm going to wait until the election so that voters don't hold me accountable, and then I'll do something that's not popular with voters, clearly, because if that's why they're holding it, then voters would reject it. So then you're on the back end of it, and you're after the election, you're in a lame duck session, and the new promise, as you know, is they're going to do this by the end of the year, by the end of 2014, in the lame duck session.
That was what Josh Earnest, he added that twist yesterday, by the end of the year.
By the end of the year. And the question is, if you still have the continuing resolution you have to do, if you have other issues, if the Democrats have a big loss in the midterms, what political space is there exactly for you to go ahead and steamroll over Congress like Obama almost never does, and to say, we're going to do this now, when you're going to have all this noise coming up from Republicans? So I think if there's any, this is difficult to do politically at any point in time, but I don't really see how it gets easier after the election if Democrats lose, or in January when you have presumably stronger Republican majorities in the House and maybe even in the Senate.
And there's another factor, and Chuck Todd in his interview with the president kind of got to this, I thought, in a very pointed way. The opening question, and the point is this, that there are people, to me, this delay matters because there are people who are going to suffer by the continuing lack of resolution about immigration reform, particularly the deportations. So Chuck's question to the president was, what do you tell the person who's going to be deported between now and the midterm elections? And explain, how do you explain to them that they're going to be deported because it's really important to you to win a Senate seat in New Hampshire?
Exactly. And it's not just a couple of people. It's about, the range is about from 65,000 to 70,000 people who are going to be affected. I mean, these are real human consequences, real human faces. A lot of these people are parents who have American-born children, citizen children, who are going to leave those children, presumably if they're deported, with a foster parent or in the foster system or somewhere. I mean, this is kind of a real problem, a real tragedy. And the president, certainly he cares about these people. This is an important issue for him. But he's making a calculation that in some respects, leaves them out of it.
And then on top of it, the White House, the president to Chuck Todd on Meet the Press, and Josh Earnest at our briefing yesterday, both insisted that politics was not the determination here. And you know what? I don't think there's a person on the planet that believes that. I mean, rightly or wrongly, they made this decision based on what they were asked to do by Democratic senators running for re-election in some tough states who said to the White House, this could hurt us if you do this. And so the White House bowed to that and said, okay, as an effort to win the Senate, to hold on to the Senate, we're going to delay any action on immigration. Again, whether that was the right thing to do or not, I don't think it was. I prefer them to do the right thing rather than bend over. But don't deny that you're doing it for politics.
Don't deny. And
nobody
also,
believes it.
now they're also in a situation where they've really raised the stakes, where if they do something in November, it has to be some larger action that's going to really please people because now everyone's pissed off. And we all know how the president works. He takes a little bit of this and a little bit from that side and puts it together and comes up with something no one's really happy with. So if he even does something, it's going to be something the advocates, the immigration community, isn't terribly excited about. And what does that then mean for Democrats in 2016? What does it mean if Jeb Bush runs? I mean, there's so many factors here, and this decision could look like a poor one, depending on how all those things play out.
One of the smartest people we know on immigration reform.
Thank you, me. Thank you. Phil, that's so nice.
Works with you.
Yes.
Angie Kelly.
Yes.
At Think at the Center for American Progress. And she was quoted yesterday in the New York
You're
Times.
Laughing, Peter.
No, making the point that you did, which is, she said it's like a boyfriend who dumps his girlfriend, and then he wants to come back with her. So when he comes back, she may let him back, but he's going to have to do a lot more for her than he would have done before, right? Because the second time around, it's got to be like better, right?
Well, it's true, yeah.
Yeah, and so, absolutely. Expectations raised. I think a big thing. By the way, my column on The Hill today is on that very point, that delay does matter. And I'm not talking about Tom DeLay. I'm talking about the president's delay of the immigration reform.
It's a different kind of hammer.
We will tweet that out, Peter.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you can check the column on our website, BillPressShow.com. We'll be back with Igor Volsky from Think Progress, thinkprogress.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
George Condon covers the White House for the National Journal, a veteran White House reporter, and he will be in studio with us in the next half hour. Right now, we're here with Igor, Volsky, managing editor of Think Progress. Check it out. Make it your homepage, thinkprogress.org. On top of all the big issues here, and nobody's talking about Obamacare anymore, but Think Progress has been keeping up with it.
Well, that's because the new premiums are coming out all across America for 2015.
Up or down, or what?
Well, on average, they are going to be slightly down for many, many Americans, and this is
cool.
Kind of a big point in, will the system work? Will it be sustainable over the next 5-10 years?
That's funny. I haven't heard any Republicans talking about that.
Surprisingly, they have not mentioned the lower premiums for next year for many Americans for a law they wanted to repeal. But here's a report from the Kaiser Family Foundation out last week showing that they studied 16 states where data is available, because it's kind of coming out in this drip fashion.
Mm-hmm.
But in the 16 states in the District of Columbia, or 15 in the District of Columbia, they find that premiums for the most popular plan, the silver level plan, are going to be down slightly for Americans on average. And if you receive subsidies, which most people in 2014 who signed up qualified for subsidies, you're probably not going to see any change at all, or you're going to see a small decrease. Now, this is a big deal, because in 2014, all of the sick people signed up first. And so the belief is that these risk pools that insurers use to price premiums were more sick than they expected. And next year, because people waited and they could afford to wait, so they are presumably healthier and they're going to sign up beginning November 15th, though, that's going to be a healthier risk pool. And so as you move on forward into 2016 and 2017, that trajectory is going to get better, and the premiums aren't going to increase as much as they did certainly before Obamacare.
So we have people who will have to renew their policy, right? That's what the premiums mostly impact.
People who have to renew their policy.
Isn't there also a new for new people for new signups? Right?
There's a new sign-up period from November 15th to the end of the year, towards mid-December. That's when new people sign up, or people who want to change their policy can sign up.
Right. All right. So more and more success
good news
about Obamacare, which is why they haven't had a vote to repeal Obamacare in a long time. Well, because they already did 55 of them. But
never enough. It's never enough, Bill. When it comes to Obamacare,
Igor, great work as always. Thanks for coming in. See you next week. thinkprogress.org. Igor Volsky.
This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use, which is a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC. Or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 33 minutes now after the hour, The Bill Press Show. We are live at our nation's capital and our studio on Capitol Hill, coming out to you on your local progressive talk radio station nationwide, on Free Speech TV nationwide, and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Big days at the White House with two big issues on the agenda, dealing with ISIS. The president geared up for a speech to the nation tomorrow evening, and dealing with immigration. The White House announcing they're going to delay any executive action by the president on immigration reform until after the midterm elections. That's a lot of red meat for reporters of the White House to digest and to cover. George Condon's been covering the White House for a long time for the National Journal and other outlets. He joins us in studio this morning. Hello, George. How are you?
Good. Thanks, Bill.
Nice to see a longtime friend. I don't want to say an old friend, but a longtime friend from California.
Back to the Jerry Brown days.
Back in the Jerry Brown days. And can you believe, would you ever, that Jerry Brown is back, and the second time around is better than the first, I think.
Exactly.
Right? He's at the top of his game, don't you think?
Right, although I missed those nights in the first term and at Frank Fat's.
Yeah, late at night.
Yes, yes.
I think I told you this story, but the last time I was out a month or so ago and had dinner with Jerry Brown, with Governor Brown, for old time's sakes, and I called his office and said, by the way, just call me whenever he's ready. I know how this works and everything, and I'm just here. And I said, so what time were you sort of thinking? I'm waiting 11 o'clock, 11:15, which is when I used to. He'd finally wind things up an hour a day and go out to Frankfurt's or the Torch Club or some other local. And they said, well, we're thinking 6 o'clock. And I said, what? 6 o'clock? The times have changed, baby.
The man's married now. But the question...
And we had dinner at 6:15.
The question is whether...
And he showed up at 6:15. I couldn't believe it.
The question whether he's changed his other habit, he would always not order something and then see it on your plate and then start eating off of your plate. Until his chief of staff, B.T. Collins, rapped him on the hand pretty hard. Sort of cured him of the habit.
Let me tell you. He still helps himself. I mean, I can. Oh yeah, no, he's he's got the biggest heads. He's always.
Man.
Oh yeah, no, he's known for that. You're right. I forgot. Well, I was reminded of that when I had dinner with him. All right, so George, let's start with immigration. Yesterday, Josh Earnest told us at the briefing that the president, yes, he is delaying, but politics has nothing to do with it. Here is why the president has decided to delay any executive action.
The reason that the president has made the decision to delay his announcement about executive actions that he's going to take is specifically because he is concerned mostly about ensuring the solution that he offers is both sustainable and enduring.
Now, I'm not sure what that means to begin with, but this is all about politics, isn't it?
Well, actually, it's about both what Josh said and politics. The president himself, in the interview with Chuck Todd on Meet the Press, said the politics of this has changed, and I'm not sure that in this atmosphere that what I do would be sustainable. So both points are right, but obviously even the president admits politics is involved.
And is the price of delay, of course, was getting a lot of flack from the Latino community and immigration activists who really called it betrayal, that he had promised them he was going to act. What is the calculation that in the end, when he finally does something, that they'll forgive and forget?
Well, I'll make 2 points on that. One, the political calculation is looking at the states where senators, Democratic senators or Senate candidates are imperiled. Mm-hmm. And in 7 of the 8 states, the Latino vote is not particularly important. It's under 10%. Only in Colorado, where Mark Udall is running, is it above that number. So the politics of it for the Democratic candidates is don't act. There would be no benefit to those Democrats. Even an unendangered Democrat, Al Franken in Minnesota, didn't want him to act. It would not have helped those Democrats. But the thing that drives me crazy about the way the president went about this is it was so clumsy from the beginning. I mean, they didn't put thought into setting the deadline when he came out in the Rose Garden in June. And I don't know, I've covered 8 presidents. I have never seen a president who would not have personally telephoned members of the Hispanic caucus. Mm-hmm. These are Democrats. Gutierrez is somebody who was in his delegation in Illinois. Loretta Sanchez is somebody who has supported him. Why in the world would you not get on the phone and give them a heads up and give them the courtesy of telling them that you're doing that? It's just, it's the way he operates, and it baffles me always.
And there's a related problem, and you alluded to it, which is, well, I guess this is more of a question, isn't the related problem that he used the phrase end of summer, by the end of summer. It's sort of like he also used the phrase the JV team. So a man who is such a great communicator does sometimes say things that end up biting him in the butt, right?
Well, I actually don't think he's a great communicator. I think he's a very eloquent speaker, but he is not very good at persuading people, and he often doesn't say exactly what he means. So you give him a formal address, and he can knock it out of the park.
Right.
I mean, that you go back to the race speech in Philadelphia during the campaign. It's one of the all-time great speeches, but he often doesn't say what he means.
I guess we could add to
otherwise.
that list, by the way, I don't have a strategy, or we don't have a strategy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew exactly.
And he's spent so much time since then explaining what he really meant.
Right, and I knew exactly what he meant, but that's not what he said. He said, I don't have a strategy. And what he meant is I don't have the military options yet to implement.
Well, if we didn't have one then, supposedly we have one now, or at least we're in the process of developing, because the president is meeting with the congressional leadership of both parties today at the White House to presumably to tell them what he's going to tell the nation tomorrow. Have they? First of all, do we know anything about this speech tomorrow yet? When and where it's going to be?
Well, I mean, Josh Earnest said he wasn't going to tell us the time yet. We believe it's going to be either 8 or 9 p.m. I mean, it's going to be an evening speech. They can change that, but this is sufficiently important that it needs to be a primetime address.
When I left the White House yesterday after the briefing, still at that point they had not requested prime time from the networks. I don't know whether that's changed, but there's a lot riding on this speech.
Oh, absolutely! It's one of the more important, certainly more important foreign policy speeches of his presidency.
And what's he got to do? Rally the American people behind another war, in effect, right?
Well, I mean, it depends on how you define war. If you define war as true as boots on the ground, I don't think he has to do that.
Right.
But he has to persuade people what the situation is. Is this a threat to the United States? And if so, is it an imminent threat? I mean, there's arguments about how imminent it is. And he has to then persuade people that as commander-in-chief, he actually has a strategy. And he's put the extra burden on himself by having said earlier that he doesn't. And it seems to me he also needs to persuade him, a country that's weary of wars and weary of the rationale used by presidents to get into those wars, that he actually is working to get Saudi Arabia and other countries in the region to actually do the fighting to defend themselves this time.
To the extent that we, and Josh kept saying yesterday, we haven't written the speech, we're still developing the strategy, but in his interview on Meet the Press with Chuck Todd, the president mentioned 4 things that I can recall that are kind of elements of the strategy. A new unity government in Iraq, the Iraqi military ground forces, Syrian moderate rebel ground forces to follow through, and, as you just pointed out, aid, maybe even forces from the Sunni Arab countries in the nation that we've always been supporting for a long time, like Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. Now, all 4 of those are iffy.
Yeah.
So isn't the entire strategy rather iffy?
Well, I mean, you can argue any military strategy. It's got the rest of the military always say that strategy falls apart the minute situation on the ground develops. But I would put the emphasis on that last one, because if American people think that we're going to do the fighting again for these rich Arab countries, there's not going to be public support. He's got to show that he's used diplomacy to get them, and he did meet with several of them during the NATO summit.
And the other point I guess he's got to make is that this ain't going to be over quickly.
Right. Well, he's going to sound like George W. Bush on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think people have to recognize that this is going to take a long time. Probably won't be resolved by the end of his presidency.
Yeah. And now his job has been made easier by the revulsion in the public to the beheadings of the 2 reporters. And that's when you talk about the president being a little tone deaf. Last week after the second of the beheadings, it was Joe Biden that captured the public revulsion, as opposed to the sort of more cooler, analytical, we need to contain them president.
Right. We will follow them to the gates of hell.
Right.
Veteran
quintessential Joe Biden.
I loved it. White House reporter James, what am I saying? James. George Condon.
Well, my
here.
friends call me James.
From the National Journal here in the studio with us. Your questions, your comments about immigration, ISIS. We'll be right back at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean. But because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour, Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports will be along in the next hour to talk more about the Ray Rice situation. Right now, George Condon is with us, a veteran White House correspondent for the National Journal now, nationaljournal.com, here in studio with us. George, you just let something slip here in the last segment that I want to come back to, that you've covered 8 presidents. This is the 8th president. Now, I can't, my mind's not quick enough to go back and find out who was the first one.
Well, I've seen 8 presidents.
Oh, okay.
Because I saw John F. Kennedy, but I've interviewed 7. So back to Nixon, Ford, Carter, all of them. So.
Whoa. How long have you been covering the White House?
Well, I've been in Washington since '82. Before that, interviewed them or covered campaigns for the plain dealer in Ohio, and then San Diego Union.
Of all those presidents, who was the easiest one to get to? And I know it was not Barack Obama.
Well, I mean, I had a long-standing relationship with Bill Clinton because the first time I ever interviewed Bill Clinton was for the Hoya at Georgetown University. I was a freshman reporter, and he was head of the Student Athletic Commission, and it was a football story. You know.
Get out. That's too wild.
And what's interesting is that there was no reason for him to remember me. I was a nobody freshman. He was kind of a big deal on campus. And I saw him 8 years later at a governor's conference, and he remembered my name.
I'm not. I am not surprised at all.
And, unless he's under oath, his memory is incredible. Under oath, you know.
But in terms for White House reporters, was he more accessible than Bush or Obama?
I mean, each one becomes less accessible.
Once
I mean, I wouldn't have called Ronald Reagan accessible, but his people were.
Mm-hmm.
And what was great about the Reagan and the Clinton White Houses is because you had staffers who were feuding with each other and vying for attention, they weren't very disciplined, and that's great for reporters. And this White House is very disciplined. It's very tough to get inside information here.
Now, you are sort of the resident historian of the White House Correspondents Association, and this is our 100th year anniversary, or last year was our 100th year anniversary, and you put together some great programs about that. And the thing that about how far back and what it was like in the early days, the thing that my takeaway from those panels that you organized was that access was the issue under George Washington, and is still an issue today, right?
Right. Well, I mean, I'm actually writing a book on the history of the Correspondents Association, and the first document that I have found since the Correspondents Association was founded in 1914 was a pleading letter on Correspondents Association letterhead begging to be allowed to cover Woodrow Wilson's honeymoon in December of 1916. So they wanted access to the honeymoon.
And at one time, I remember one of the panelists, maybe it was you who told the story, that the reporters would actually sleep in the White House, or they'd be up all night.
Well, I mean, that you go back in that to when President Garfield was dying, and the AP every night, an AP reporter would stay in the hallway outside the president's room and listen in and make sure he heard the president was still breathing. And he'd report on that. Can
you imagine?
And the same thing when President Harding was dying in the Palace Hotel in August of 1923 in San Francisco, Steve Early, who later became Franklin Roosevelt's press guy, was a reporter from Associated Press, and he was in the hallway outside there when Mrs. Harding came out crying and, where are the doctors? So, yes, there was more access. I don't think they'd let us in outside the dying president's room to listen for his breathing today. It's just a guess, but I don't think so.
Or even if he's not dying. I mean, if I were you, and I certainly will not try, to get upstairs in the White House just to sneak it down the hall some night just to see if President Obama's breathing, right?
Well,
or snoring.
President Roosevelt and Eleanor Roosevelt would invite reporters on Sunday to join them for dinner. He called it the supper of scrambled eggs and so on, and they routinely joined the president and his family for Sunday dinner.
How times have changed.
Wait, you haven't gotten invited to the President Obama's Sunday dinners?
I scrambled eggs?
The mail. That's
what it is. Okay. Maybe next Sunday, George. Hey, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming in.
Certainly.
All right. And briefing today at 1 o'clock. All right. The day has just begun here for us White House reporters. Thank you, George.
Certainly.
NationalJournal.com. You can follow George's great work. I'll come back and tell you what the president's up to today, by the way.
This is the Bill Press Show.
How about it? Here we go into hour number 3, getting ready. And, you're going to switch here from Free Speech TV because they no longer they don't carry this third hour, over to TawkrTV, our worldwide video stream. YouTube.com/TawkrTV, spell it right, TawkrTV. And the next hour, Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports is going to join us to talk about what else? About Ray Rice and the Ravens and the NFL and why it took him so long to do the right thing. Hour number 3 coming up on TawkrTV.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I'd do anything.
Why are you asking me that?
This is the Bill Press Show.
By the way, George Condon, going right from our studio to the White House, he is pooled today to cover any of the president's activities that will be public events. So far, there are no public events scheduled. The president gets a daily briefing at 10 o'clock this morning. He and the vice president, no, he alone will meet with Secretary of State John Kerry at 10:45 this morning. And then this afternoon, very important meeting, the president and the vice president meeting with the bipartisan leaders of Congress on ISIS, and our briefing with Josh Earnest at 1 o'clock.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's 2, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies in Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now. Please.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Ray Rice looking for a job this morning. Hopefully he won't be playing football anytime soon. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the Bill Press Show, hour number 3 on this Tuesday, September 9. Thank you for being with us on your local progressive talk radio station. Thank you for being there on our video stream worldwide at TawkrTV. YouTube.com/TawkrTV. Just so you know where to find it. And you'll find us on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Our studio just down the street from the United States Capitol building. Congress is back in town. President and the Vice President are here today. And maybe we can get something going. Washington kind of gearing up for the president's big speech tomorrow. Not sure what time yet, but sometime tomorrow. Big speech, probably prime time. Big speech to the nation on ISIS, which we will start this hour talking about what we might expect from the president. Remember, you can join the conversation at any time at 866-55-PRESS. And you can send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show. We'll catch them, get right back to you. And on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy.
Hey there.
The leaders here this morning.
We're here.
With Alicia Cruz on the phones and Cyprian Bolding on the cameras and the lights.
Yes, sir.
Videographer. Here we go.
We're working a full week this week? Is that the way? Because last week we had Labor Day off, and it was so nice. I thought we were going to maybe switch to the 4-day work.
Oh, yeah, maybe Friday? Are we coming in Friday?
I don't know about you, but I won't be here Friday.
Unless there's some food on the table.
I shouldn't have opened up that door because I knew I was going to get screwed there.
Yeah, unless you bring donuts.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Like last Friday. This Friday is a big opening for District Donuts.
That's right.
Yeah,
our friends,
indeed.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about it. So I just mentioned Ray Rice will be joined by Travis Waldron a little bit later from Think Progress Sports to talk more about the Ray Rice, his being dropped by the Ravens yesterday. Still a lot of questions about why it took so long. But now, one issue is, what do you do with all these people who bought jerseys, Ray Rice jerseys, whatever his number is, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this is the American entrepreneurial spirit. Somebody will find a way to make money off of this or to get a little publicity out of it. Hirsch's Pizza up in Baltimore came up with a good idea. They said, don't burn your jersey. Bring it in, and we'll exchange it for a free pizza.
Free pizza.
Here's one fan who did so.
I was going to burn my jersey in a fire pit, and we decided to come over and get a free pizza instead.
There you go.
Not
Very
a bad
nice.
idea. Smart on the move.
Smart on their part.
Smart on their part. Now, here's what I want to know. What are they going to do with all the jerseys that they get?
Well, they actually said, quote, there are only so many we can use for toilet paper. On their Facebook page, by the way. They're also going to be donating $2.70 after Ray Rice is number 27 to a house for abused women in Baltimore. So they're going to be giving some money to charity for every
jersey
that they get.
Oh, that's very
got a Ray
nice.
Rice jersey.
Good for them.
By God, go to Baltimore, get some pizza, and give some money to this.
There's some bars offering free bar tabs if you bring in your jersey.
Is that right?
Yeah, a lot of people kind of joined
but
in.
But then you know what they ought to do then? go to the Inner Harbor. Someday they'll have a day at the Inner Harbor where all these these businesses that have collected jerseys for whatever thing, right, to have a great big pile of them and have a great big bonfire. Yeah, right.
You remember when
have
Aaron,
the fire department standing by and just torch them.
Of course.
Yeah.
When Aaron Hernandez from the Patriots got in trouble, got arrested, the Patriots themselves had a buyback program. They said, if you bring us your Aaron Hernandez jersey,
I remember that.
we'll give you another jersey because we don't want to. We want you to. The Ravens should have done something like this, but because,
that would have been very smart for them too.
But you know, hey, look, I'd rather have free pizza.
By the way, it's not too late. I mean, it took them a month to act on Ray Rice. So
right, yeah.
So
maybe it'll come. They're not exactly.
By the time there are no jerseys left,
right? Yeah,
they'll come up with this, right?
Yeah.
As I said, Travis Waldron will join us just a little bit later. And what can we expect from the president on ISIS? But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Peter. Just a couple of other stories making news. Politico may have uncovered a black market inside the Capitol. Well, it's not quite as exciting as it sounds. The black market revolves around snacks that members of Congress have from their home districts. And when certain other workers and employees of other offices can't get those snacks, they do a little barter, they do a little trade. For example, Rand Paul keeps Kellogg's Pop-Tarts and Nutri-Grain bars in his office because they're manufactured in Kentucky. Johnny Isaacson from Georgia has peanuts and Coca-Cola, both from Georgia. Kirsten Gillibrand has a refrigerator stocked with
Chobani
yogurt.
Yes.
You got it.
I knew that.
You got it. Also listed in this Politico piece, which we will tweet out at BP Show, they talk about Sam Farr, who represents an area of California known as America's Salad Bowl. He serves pistachios and dates and prunes in his office.
No, Sam, one of my best friends, and he has all kinds of produce and artichokes sometimes, everything from, because the artichoke capital of the world.
Yeah, there you
Watsonville is included there, right? So, by the way, this is not a news story. This is well known.
This
has been going on forever. A good friend of mine works in the Senate, and let me tell you, he is a scrounger, and he can tell you. I mean,
who has the best stuff?
Oh yeah. Oh no. He could draw a map out. He knows where to get. If he's hungry for like a candy bar, he knows where to go. Yogurt, he knows where he knows what's available in every office and knows how to get there.
They were saying that some of the members from Florida even have refrigerators just for orange juice. Little containers of orange juice they give out.
Yeah. So this has been going on for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a little buffet there in the Capitol. I like it. You know, today is the big day for Apple. They're going to be unveiling some new products. We've heard that they're going to be unveiling the iWatch. We've heard they're going to be unveiling 2 new iPhones of different sizes. New York Times also reports that the band U2 is going to be involved in the Apple event today.
Whoa.
We're not sure how. We're not sure if they're going to perform or if they're going to be involved in some of the products somehow, but we do have word that they will be there and will participate. Yes, indeed. And a big move for the NCAA. They announced that they are going to restore Penn State's postseason eligibility immediately. You know, they had been banned from the postseason after the Jerry Sandusky, Joe Paterno scandal that rocked the campus a couple years ago. The NCAA says that Penn State has acted as a role model for a program and how they should act after a controversy like this. So they now go back into the postseason. They're getting all of their scholarship rosters back, so they are back in full force. It wasn't supposed to happen until the end of next season.
And they can now play in a bowl game too, I think,
this
season.
That's the postseason. They can play in bowl games.
Exciting.
It's unfortunate that announcement, or whatever, that announcement happened the same day the Ray Rice was dropped. And,
it came within moments of the Ravens dropping Ray Rice. And look,
because the way the Ravens ignored the signals and the NFL did on Ray Rice reminds me of the way people look the other way at Penn State too.
And it's worth pointing out that everybody that was involved in the Penn State scandal is now gone. So the NCAA says, look, if they cleaned house, they got eventually. they got their program back on track, and they're exactly where they should be now. So hopefully the Ravens can do something similar.
All right, you got it. Thanks, Peter. ISIS. That is the focus of what's going on at the White House today. The president will be meeting with Speaker Boehner and Leader Pelosi from the House, with Leader Reid and Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, meeting with the four of them at the White House this afternoon at 3:15 with the Vice President. He will presumably lay out to them what he plans to tell the nation, all of us, tomorrow at some point in a speech from somewhere. We don't know what time. We don't know where the speech is going to be, but the president has scheduled that to just tell us how serious a threat ISIS is and what his plan is or his strategy is for dealing with it. So far, we have the president himself has said, while even yesterday at the White House and on Sunday on Meet the Press, both the president and Josh Earnest said we're still developing the strategy, still developing it, and still working on the speech. The president did give an indication that his strategy for dealing with ISIS contains at least 4 elements. One of them is, so before we really go full bore, before we advance to airstrikes inside of Syria, where the heart of ISIS is located, 4 things the president wants to see: a new, stable government, unity government in Iraq. 1. 2, Iraqi military forces re-equipped, retrained, that will follow up on any airstrikes in Syria and follow up on any airstrikes in Iraq as well. 2. 3, moderate Syrian rebels, their military forces, who will again follow up on the airstrikes and wipe out ISIS on the ground. And then finally, and maybe critically or most importantly, resources, including boots on the ground, from other Sunni nations in the region: Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Jordan, very wealthy nations that we've been supporting, giving a lot of money to for a long time to build up their military, getting them to commit some troops on the ground. Now, you add those 4 things up, each one of them is iffy. It's going to take a long time to be sure we have a stable government in Iraq. They just formed a new cabinet yesterday, but the 2 key positions are not even filled yet. That's going to take some time to shake down. The Iraqi military, we've seen, we really can't count on them the way they are right now. That's going to take a lot more work and training and equipment, because they gave half their equipment to ISIS when they saw them coming. Moderate rebels in Syria, they haven't done too well yet, have they? They've lost to ISIS as well as lost to Assad inside of Syria, so it's going to take time to rebuild them. And then we've never seen any military help from Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, or Jordan. They've taken our money and have never stood up to help us in any of these other conflicts in the Middle East. So those are 4 iffy elements to the strategy, and which I think makes the whole strategy a little iffy. But the biggest question is, and the one I pose to you is, are we really ready for another war? Because they're never going to call it a war. The president will not call it a war. I don't know what he's going to call it. An operation, a mission to degrade and destroy ISIS. He said that's our goal. But here's what we have to accept: the fact that this is going to take some time, friend. This is going to take some time. What the president, however he couches it, is really going to tell us is that we are going to war, back to war in Iraq, we're already there, and to war in Syria. And we cannot expect that to be over by the end of the year. I don't think we can expect that to be over by the end of President Obama's term in office. We're opening the door. We are taking the first steps to, and maybe we should. That's my question to you. Should we? We are taking the first steps toward another long-term war in the Middle East. That's what we're going to hear tomorrow. 866-55-PRESS. Are you ready for it? Do you think ISIS is a big enough threat that we have to go there? 866-55-77-377. We'll find more from the president's speech tomorrow night, but we know the gist of what he's going to say. Will the American people support it? You tell me. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach
likes
your
you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
At 25 minutes after the hour, Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports joins us in the next half hour to talk about Ray Rice being dropped by the Ravens yesterday. We're talking right now about the president's speech to the nation tomorrow, scheduled speech to the nation tomorrow, though we don't know the details yet, where he is going to lay out his strategy for ISIS, dealing with ISIS, and in effect, telling the nation why it's important, telling us why it's important that we go back to war in Iraq and extend that war into Syria. Secretary of State John Kerry yesterday saying the president's going to lay it all out there.
President Obama will lay out in even greater detail our coordinated global strategy against ISIL.
And John Kerry says also that it's this time, this is very important, and the president has stressed this, Josh Earnest, press secretary, stressed it yesterday, this time it can't be and it won't be the United States alone.
As we build this coalition, I want to underscore that almost every single country on earth has a role to play in eliminating the ISIL threat and the evil that it represents.
And he's particularly saying, yes, the countries that we're talking about are Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Jordan. And the president has convened a meeting of the United Nations Security Council later this month to deal with this issue. But the big question I have is whether the American people are ready for another war in the Middle East. Remember, this wasn't supposed to happen. We ended the war in Iraq, ending the war in Afghanistan this year, and then we were going to be war-free. Instead, we ended the war in Iraq. Things didn't quite work out. We're trying to get the hell out of Afghanistan. Haven't yet. Meanwhile, we're back in Iraq because of ISIS. And now we're talking about not only back in Iraq, but adding Syria to the mix. By the way, and are the American people ready for that? The Washington Post is out with a new poll this morning, which shows, by the way, that 91%, maybe the answer is yes, 91% of Americans in this latest poll see the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, ISIS, as a serious threat. And 71% of Americans in this latest poll support airstrikes against ISIS inside of Syria. So
it's amazing how quickly that turned around.
You know what it is? People still think that bombing is the answer, and that we can do it quickly and decisively, and all we have to do is send our planes and drop some bombs, and the problem is solved. And it's never worked out that way. And this is going to take a long time. Are we ready for it? I don't care what the poll says. I don't think the American people, I certainly don't want to see a third war in the Middle East. Let's talk sports with Travis Waldron next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing done. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour of The Bill Press Show, Tuesday. I started to say Monday. Now it's Tuesday, September 9.
Here we're trying to lose days of work, and you're trying to add more. Come on.
Oh, shut up. Coming to you live from Washington, D.C., and brought to you today by the American Federation of Government Employees, the good men and women of the AFGE under President J. David Cox. Proud to work for America every day in our federal agencies across this land. For more information about their good work, check out their website, afge.org. Sports dominating the news today. We bring in our good friend, welcome back, Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports. Hey, Travis, how are you?
Good, how are you?
We are doing great. I hate to start with the bad news, but it's been...
is there good news right now?
I don't know that there is in the sports world. There is bad news. Let's start with perhaps the baddest news of all.
Swing and a line drive by Ian Desmond. A base hit into right field. On a first pitch fastball. Rendon scores from third. LaRoche stops at second. And the Nationals score first. Here in the bottom of the first inning. They take the lead early on.
It's about time. Congrats to the Nets for finally beating the Braves.
Yeah. Who was that team that the Nats beat last night, 2-1? Who was that team that Nats humiliated last night?
Was that first time since like 2010? Congratulations.
We saved that for you.
I figured. Yeah. I thought I was just wondering if that was going to come up today.
Oh, yeah, it came up. All right. So you're ready to concede now. The Nets are going all the way, right?
To the playoffs.
Well, for Travis,
we'll take that.
Baby steps.
That's a big step. That is a big step. All right. We do want to talk about, I mean, this Ray Rice video, we've seen it now. We saw it yesterday. And then the Ravens dropping him yesterday and the NFL suspending him. What does that suspension mean, first of all? Does that mean he could possibly come back?
In theory, it's an indefinite suspension. So it doesn't seem there's any set end date to it. They have reportedly last night told teams that they would not approve contracts if they did want to sign him, which is I don't really know what they're doing there. I don't think any team would be foolish enough to sign him at this point right now, but you never know.
Dan Snyder.
Maybe Dan Snyder. But for now it's indefinite. I think I doubt Ray Rice will ever play again. He did not exactly have a good year last year. Now he's going to be out of the league presumably for this entire season at the least. but he'll have to eventually apply for reinstatement.
So I think everybody's asking the question about what was the role of the NFL in this whole thing? If did they see this in the second video, the inside the elevator video? Did they see it? If they didn't see it, why the hell didn't they see it? And what's your take on it?
I think those are the two big questions. So there were reports back in July that they had seen this second video. There were reports that there was a second video on top of the one that showed him dragging her out of the elevator, and that the NFL had seen it. Multiple reporters said that the NFL had seen this video. They were big-time NFL inside reporters, Peter King and Chris Mortensen and people in the know. And now the NFL is saying we didn't see it. The question is, but the question is, like you raised, why didn't you see it? Wait, if TMZ can get a hold of it, why can't the NFL? The second question is, did you need to? Did use your imagination? I mean, we saw the video of Ray Rice dragging his fiance out of a hotel elevator while she was unconscious. We had reports of what was on this video, that he had punched her. He was arrested and charged with assault. Why did you need? Do we need to actually see it happen? Like, do you not understand what it might look like when an NFL running back punches a woman? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's it's unconscionable to me that and John Harbaugh, the Ravens coach last night, who said this seeing the video changed things. What did it change?
Right.
Like, did you not know what it looked like when that happened? Did you not understand that the arrest wasn't enough, the charges weren't enough, the admission into a diversionary program wasn't enough, the first video wasn't enough. If you needed to actually see her get knocked out to be convinced, that's unconscionable. Yeah. That is just it's problematic and it's inexplicable to me. And the idea that we were talking about before, that, well, maybe this video, which his attorneys raised, that maybe this video was exculpatory in some way, that it showed that she provoked it. What could she have done to provoke that? What could she have done in an elevator to provoke him, or in any circumstance? And by the way, to provoke him knocking her out and dragging her across the floor and telling a security guard, no cops, or the security guard saying it, whoever did. Yeah. There's not this idea that there's provocation here. No. And by the way, now that we've seen the video, we know that there was no provocation. Right. I mean, it looked like she was walking toward or going toward him, but I mean, she did not throw a punch. They were clearly in a dispute. But it's just.
But again, on this, Harvey Levin from TMZ talked about. Now, before we play that, TMZ was supposed to release this morning another video, Peter.
Well, they said yesterday that they sort of insinuated that they had proof that the NFL, and again, they insinuated that the NFL had seen the video, and they were going to release proof of that by the time everybody woke up this morning. We woke up this morning, and they had put out that that the NFL had turned a blind eye, that they never asked the hotel to see the video, and that's their big story, is that the NFL never asked to see it, which is not good.
No. The NFL says that the state police controlled the video, and so they couldn't get it.
That's what the NFL has since come out in response and said. Now here's Harvey Levin from TMZ saying they had it, NFL knew they had it, and they didn't ask for it.
I have gotten conflicting stories on this, and we have some people saying they saw this, but I now believe they actually turned a blind eye to it. And it's a shameful story that the NFL knew that this surveillance video existed. They knew that this casino had surveillance video. I know they knew that. And we will explain later why we know they knew that, but they did. And they didn't do anything to look at this video.
So, I mean, they just take this issue too lightly. I mean, has this changed? Does this change things?
No, I don't think so.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that that's true, by the way, that the NFL has not seen the video?
I don't buy it.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't buy it. I think it's hard to know. I mean, what's clear is someone here is not telling the truth about this video, because you have multiple reporters who reported that they had seen this video or who were under the understanding that they had seen this video. So either the NFL, through its sources, was not telling the truth, or the reporters are not telling the truth. And I have a hard time believing that 6 reporters or however many reporters would just fabricate this idea that they, and especially because, like I said, some of these reporters, Peter King, Adam Schefter, these are not guys who make a habit of just like going at the NFL. Like these are NFL insiders. They're reporting trades and personnel moves. And
so the role of the NFL, disgusting, unconscionable, as you put it, I think the role of the police as well. I mean, they did see the video. But New Jersey law says for charges to be filed, there has to be serious bodily injury. Well,
I saw it.
I saw it on the video. I saw it on that video.
Yeah, I think
why didn't they?
I think that's one of the big things too. Is we run to focus on the NFL here as if there are moral kind of guard here telling us which way to go. But I think you have to look at the police and you have to look at prosecutors and ask, why was Ray Rice in this? Why was he not charged? Why was he put into this diversionary program? I don't know the answers to that. I read a story this morning that it's uncommon for violent offenders to go into the diversionary program, at least in New Jersey. That's a question that I think is we need to get to, larger than Ray Rice, larger than the NFL. What is happening with, because domestic violence quite clearly is a very serious issue outside of the scope of the NFL. The NFL suspending Ray Rice indefinitely and cutting him, the Ravens cutting him, is not going to solve our larger problems of domestic violence in this country. So I think it's definitely important that we ask those questions of New Jersey State Police and what other law enforcement officials were involved.
A point that Peter's made, which we'll talk about on the other side of the break, is one thing, no victim blaming here, but one thing that made it more difficult for the police was that she did not file charges.
Right, and that is apparently one of the reasons that he was entered into the diversionary program. Apparently that's a factor they take into account.
Ray Rice, who's to blame here? The NFL, the police, the Ravens, all of the above? Ray Rice, first of all, himself, of course. 866-55-PRESS is what America's talking about this Tuesday. You got a chance here when we come back, 866-55-77-377.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately I've been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour, Travis Waldron, Think Progress Sports In. We're talking Ray Rice on The Bill Press Show this Tuesday morning, September 9. Travis, does Roger Goodell survive? Should he?
I think he will. I think this is, I think Roger Goodell, well, the first thing, Roger Goodell serves at the pleasure of the owners. They are his bosses. And I know Keith Olbermann has been out there last night with a devastating take on this. When I think he called him an enabler of men who beat women, and that he has lost his credibility as commissioner. I know there are other people making similar calls. I'd be shocked if this brings him down. I just don't think it's, as bad as this is for the looks to the public and things like that. I would be shocked.
I predicted he'll be out of a job by the end of the week, but of course I've been wrong before too.
I think that as it currently stands, he could probably survive. There are a couple of factors at play. One of them revolving around the video and whether or not they actually saw it. And I think another one is going to depend on how he handles. I mean, let's not forget there is a current domestic violence situation happening right now with Ray McDonald
and Greg Hardy.
So what's going to happen there? Are they going to do the right thing?
I mean, and I know that my cynicism here is going to shock everyone, but the NFL is a very healthy business, and revenues are skyrocketing under Commissioner Goodell, and I think those are the things the owners care about.
Let me ask you that.
And
what do you think this does for the popularity of the NFL? Nothing.
I just think, like, look, we're talking about a league that has been able to weather the fact that it gives people irreparable brain damage.
Yeah.
I hope this is something that wakes people up and gets them to talk about problems in the NFL and in broader society. I'm not sure the NFL's going to take a hit from this any more than they've taken a hit from the other public relations nightmares they've faced in recent years or any other time.
Really quickly, because this just came through, Janae Rice actually put out a statement this morning in the Baltimore Sun. She said, I woke up this morning feeling like I had a horrible nightmare, feeling like I'm mourning the death of my closest friend. But to have to accept the fact that it's a reality, no one knows the pain that the media and unwanted options from the public has caused my family. To make us relive a moment in our lives that we regret every day is a horrible thing. To take something away from the man I love, he has worked his ass off for all his life to gain ratings, is horrific. So that's the statement from Janae Rice this morning.
Blame the media. Janet's calling from Chicago. Hi, Janet.
Hi, Bill. Hi, everybody. I would submit to you that's kind of Stockholm Syndrome stuff. I grew up in that situation. My mother got the heck beat out of her by my stepfather. And for the first 5 years, nothing could happen because she wouldn't press charges because she was terrified of him. And the cops couldn't do anything. But in the 70s, the state of Illinois changed the law so that the cops could press charges against him.
Oh.
And it stopped. And if New Jersey is still in a situation where the cops can't press charges for a felony assault, that's archaic.
And I think that may be the case, Janet, whether they can't or they're unwilling to. Certainly in this case, they did not. Right. But that's a big factor in this. Yeah. Hey, Jenna, thanks so much for checking in this morning. It's just hard to understand how she could. Again, I don't want to dwell on her too much because it's Ray Rice.
Well, I think
how she could marry him and then put out a statement.
But I think it is important to take in. I think one of the things I went back and forth on this a lot yesterday about the video, which I didn't watch. I saw because CNN played it with no warning.
Much of an option.
I think it is important to think about how this video being public and how all of this public conversation does affect her.
Yeah.
It's for her to have to relive the video is, I can't imagine what that's like.
Yeah.
And so I think it's very important to take into consideration what she wants. And on the larger issue, to take into consideration, as the caller just mentioned, why there was a good hashtag thing going on last night of why I stayed and when I left. And I think it's very important to explore and to understand all of the reasons why women stay in these situations, why they finally leave, how we can do better to protect people.
That lady needs some help. That's all I got to say. She needs some help.
Yeah.
I have to ask you about this because this also was announced yesterday, maybe on the good news front, where Penn State has been welcomed back to the postseason play, basically exonerated. This is now past history. They can move forward. Is that the right move?
I think so. I think
Enough
so.
Time?
It's not that. I don't think this was a situation for the NCAA. I wrote that at the time. I think Penn State's situation was not a violation of any NCAA rules that I'm aware of, that most people were aware of. They kind of threw the book at them, just making it up as they went. Penn State was a situation for law enforcement and for the Department of Education and for the people at that university and in that community. I don't think the NCAA taking scholarships or bowls away or wins from years past was ever going to fix what happened there or necessarily prevent it in the future. And I think that, there were calls all around that the NCAA had to do something, had to step in at Penn State. But why? What was that going to do? Was it was going to make us feel better because Penn State's program was a little bit worse? But is football any less important at Penn State today than it was then?
It's a good point.
Yeah. But now they're back. And
they're back.
I think the right thing. Okay. And you're back. And thank you for coming back. Travis Waldron. You're back, and now you're out of here. Thank you, man.
Go now.
Thank you.
Couldn't have got through today without you.
All right.
Really
Well, I could have used
in.
some donuts, but...
That's for another day.
Next time.
We'll do it, next time.
Travis Waldron. Don't forget,
Sure.
it's thinkprogress.org. I'll be back with a parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922.
Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, summer's officially over, so Congress came back to town yesterday, but don't expect anything to happen because it doesn't matter whether they're in session or out of session. They never get anything done either way. Officially, they're here for the next 2 weeks, during which they have 7 legislative days scheduled. At least that's what's on the books now, but Republicans are already talking about canceling the second week and going home a week early. And to tell the truth, they might as well. They've already announced they're going to take no votes on minimum wage, immigration reform, or student loans, and probably won't even take any vote on airstrikes in Syria. As a sign of what we can expect, Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy actually sent out a memo to House Republicans this week, quoting humorist Sam Ewing. Quote, "Hard work spotlights the character of people. Some turn up their sleeves, some turn up their noses, and some don't turn up at all." You could put House Republicans in the latter category, not turning up at all. My parting shot for today, folks. It's Tuesday. Have a great one. Come back and see us again tomorrow morning. We'll be looking for you.
This is the Bill Press Show.